You think you've got my number figured out? A motive born in drought and brevity. And if I'm not the soul of your design, I blatantly decline your remedy. Don't box me in, don't, or I'll leave. I'd rather be a dreamer, I'd rather be free, I'd rather be a leader, I'd rather be a queen, I'd rather be a singer in a trashy cover band. I'd rather be a closer, I'd rather be clean, I'd rather be a poser in a magazine, I'd rather be pretty much anything else than your machine. Wasn't always just a single shade, a palette full of gray in reverie. And I can burn it brighter than the sun. I have a golden gun inside of me. Don't box me in, don't, or I'll leave. I'd rather be a dreamer, I'd rather be free, I'd rather be a leader, I'd rather be a queen, I'd rather be a singer in a trashy cover band. I'd rather be a closer, I'd rather be clean, I'd rather be a poser in a magazine, I'd rather be pretty much anything else. And if I fall behind, ignoring all the signs, if I lose the fight, I still rage against the night. Don't box I'd rather be a dreamer, I'd rather be free, I'd rather be a leader, I'd rather be a queen, I'd rather be a singer in a trashy cover band. I'd rather be a closer, I'd rather be clean, I'd rather be a poser in a magazine, I'd rather be pretty much anything else than your machine. till it's perfect.
Gotta want it, gotta need it. Only get what you put in. Give me something to believe in. Feel the sweat on my skin. Gotta want it, gotta need it. Only get what you put in. Give me something to believe in. Feel the sweat on my skin. I put the work in, 'cause I'm worth it. And I think I found somebody who deserves it. If you put the work in, you can earn it. You and me together could be perfect. Put the work in, 'cause I'm worth it. And I think I found somebody who deserves it. If you put the work in, you can earn it. Got the kind of body that I wanna put my body on.
Work it, work it. Work it, work it. Work it, work it. Turn up the heat, don't stop till it's perfect. Work it, work it. Work it, work it. Work it, work it. Turn up the heat, don't stop till it's perfect. Work it, work it. Work it, work it.
Welcome to the Thursday stream. I hope everyone's having an awesome Thursday. It is Friday Junior, folks. It's basically the weekend here. Once again, folks, I need to remind you, folks, that next week, okay, so this upcoming week, the streams are going to be a little bit limited. So if you're not already in joining on the Discord, I will be making an announcement this weekend to remind folks again. Michael Haster, welcome. Beery, welcome. Swastikars are now on sale. Welcome, YouTube crew. Moaneb, Kirkenstein's Monsters, welcome. Hope everyone's doing all right. Is working it. Given the fact that I do have to do quite the amount of preparation, today's stream I'm gonna try to just skedaddle on out of here pretty early-ish. Howdy, welcome. Give me 1 second, folks. That being said, let's get started, folks. If you enjoy the content, don't forget, do all the things, okay? Do all the things. Thank you for liking the stream, following, subscribing, all that awesome stuff. Thank you for your support. Join the Discord, folks, if you want to keep up with the channel. Also, make sure that you subscribe to the Substack, and if you want to support the channel directly, consider checking out the merch store. Yesterday, someone purchased a shirt, so I appreciate that, and hit that exclamation mark tip to support the channel directly. Give me 1 second, folks. Let me go grab my pillow real quick. Just 1 second. Sorry about that, folks. There you go. All right, folks, let's get started really, really freaking quick, guys. Let's do it.
I posted a picture of the Bernie rally and said, like, I thought this was inspiring because it genuinely was.
I saw you quote tweet it and I was like, oh, he must be shadowboxing his mentions on this one.
You bet I was. You bet. Not shadowboxing, boxing. But there's every reply under the book in the Sun to explain why it wasn't actually inspiring and actually quite bad.
What?
Yeah, just sort of like why is Bernie alone? Why aren't other Democrats doing this? Bernie's too old. Why isn't he with somebody else?
Yeah, fantastic question. Why aren't other Democrats there?
This isn't.
Sometimes I feel like we're running a political campaign with 5,000 people who like all have an equal say in the campaign
Yes.
all the time, and they're all strategists.
But the thing about it, well, online. But the thing about it is, like, there was none of that feeling in the actual
Of course not,
event.
because it's real life.
And in real life, what was there at that event? It was very diverse, age, all demographics. And there were people there that have been Bernie fans forever. There were people there that had never been to a political rally before. They were all very excited to be there. They weren't checking to find out how long they'd been a Bernie backer, or if any Pete Buttigieg supporters had managed to sneak in, right? Like, none of that exists in the real world, right? There's nobody like, oh, you like Bernie.
Do I
you
hear
like,
high hopes in the background?
you
Get 'em
like
out!
Bernie now, but you were part of the DNC coup in Iowa in 2016.
Yeah, that's
Like
like
us.
people who
We
are
were.
yeah.
people who are early into a band who scold you if you come to it later. It's like, that's not fun
Right,
for anybody.
like the two things can't be, the two positions can't be, why isn't the Democratic Party embracing Bernie's message, and, oh, sure, you like Bernie now, where were you before? It's
Yeah.
like, well, those two things are in opposition.
Sometimes our leftist friends don't build the biggest tent, and we all should just welcome people into the Bernie Club.
Lord have mercy.
That was a conversation that took place on the March 11th episode of Pod Save America, and as you saw, the Pod Save bros were a little bit frustrated with the leftists who are reluctant to embrace their newfangled status as Bernie bros. And look, I get it. I think that gatekeeping is antithetical to movement building, and welcoming people to our side once we win them over is crucial. So I, for one, am happy to see so many Johnny-come-latelys finally give Bernie Sanders the credit that he deserves. But on the other hand, I'll admit that it is frustrating to see so many liberals like James Carville, Chris Murphy, and the Pod Save bros embrace Bernie Sanders now that it's too late. I mean, we had 2 chances to make this man the president of the United States, and a lot of people who are now embracing him were the same ones who were fighting the hardest to stop him.
Yeah, and like the thing is, like it's now like just a strategic a strategic retreat, right? Mike is right. Where were these people in 2016 and 2020?
And that includes at least one of the Pod Save bros. For example, in 2018, ahead of Bernie's second presidential run, he was building public support for Medicare for All, and it reached new highs in terms of popularity. But all of a sudden, as journalist Lindsay Ballant points out, a nonprofit called United States of Care was founded by insurance industry advocates to stop the momentum that Bernie Sanders was building for Medicare for All. And one of the founders of this nonprofit is none other than Jon Favreau from Pod Save America. And the policy changes that this group was pushing for were good, but they were incremental and conveniently allowed for our corrupt for-profit system to remain in place. And these were the positions that ended up becoming mainstream in the Democratic Party. And now it's unclear if the party even supports a public option. This group does not support a public option. And as Lindsay Ballant goes on to explain, we don't hear much about this nonprofit anymore because they were materialized to do one job: kill momentum for Medicare for All, and they basically accomplished that goal. So I think things like this, in part, explains why there's still a lot of skepticism for the Pod Save bros in particular. I don't think that many Bernie bros hold animus towards their viewers, because those are obviously just regular working class people. But I think that these guys get the impression that the left is less welcoming than they are in actuality because of their personal experience. But I'd argue that's not really the case. Sure, they get criticism, but
Mike is usually right. Shoots Bernie in the foot and then gets surprised we're not buying that they're on our side. Welcome, Heat.
from my standpoint, the criticism that liberals get is mostly saved for liberal pundits and the Democratic Party insiders and consultants and strategists, not Democratic Party voters. But having said that, I think that even folks like them should be welcomed into the coalition, but there's going to be skepticism because of the role that they played in trying to suppress progressive momentum. But I will say that, one thing that they could do that would be seen as a good faith gesture towards the left, if they're serious about adopting a more Bernie Sanders style of politics, is to endorse actual fighters who want to do what Bernie Sanders is trying to do. who's not afraid to confront fascists. The person I'm talking about, who I'd love to see them endorse, is Zohran Mamdani, a New York State Assembly member who is currently the main
Nice.
competitor to Andrew Cuomo in New York City's mayoral race. And if you think that Bernie's politics are the way forward and you're serious about that, allow me to introduce you to the next iteration of this style of politics.
I saw this guy. This guy was pretty freaking cool. This guy's powerful. Tears coming.
How many more New Yorkers without joy? Do you believe in the First Amendment? Do you believe in the First Amendment, Tom Homan?
When we asked Tom Homan, all he had to answer for that cruelty was a smirk. Because there is no answer for taking a man from his pregnant wife, who is due to deliver their newborn child in a month, from their Columbia University apartment, a day after that same man, Mahmoud Khalil, wrote to Columbia University and said he feared for his life. The cowardice that is on display across our city and our state is unacceptable. New Yorkers are looking to us. They are looking to their leaders for courage and for conviction. And what they are finding instead is collaboration. And that is just simply unacceptable.
True.
And that is exactly the kind of person that we need right now. So many elected Democrats aren't just refusing to fight, which would be bad in and of itself, but they are actively collaborating with fascists. And the cowardice that he's calling out, this unwillingness to speak out for Mahmoud Khalil, who's a political prisoner of the Trump administration, is exactly the problem with modern day Democratic Party individuals. I'm talking about the electeds, not the voters. Now, previously, Democratic Party strategists and probably, the Pod Save America bros would fight to stop somebody like Mamdani from ever getting power. But I mean, if you're serious about beating fascists and you think Bernie Sanders truly does have the ticket to victory for Democrats, prove it to us. Support Mamdani. Bring him on your show. Mainstream him with Democratic Party voters who are desperate for fighters like him.
True. Cat Pig, welcome. Adams has to take the cake on most outrageous, though not most damaging collaboration. He's gotten like the basically like he is the symbol of what he's talking about. Taking bribes for one autocrat, Erdogan, and then entering a corrupt deal with the emperor. Yeah, and then, like, magically his criminal cases are going away because of his quid pro quo. Which, to my understanding, I thought was illegal, but I guess, rules work a little different.
And it doesn't really matter where you land politically within the Democratic Party's base. Most voters in this bloc understand that we need politicians who stand for something. And I get the sense that the Pod Save bros now feel the same way. At least that's what I took away from their commentary about Bernie Sanders.
But also good for Bernie for filling a space and like giving people a place to go to get excited and fired up.
Well,
I think that's great.
In House districts that Republicans won by only a few votes.
And more
that-
Democrats should be doing that.
Absolutely.
Good for
Whether
him.
you like Bernie's politics or not, here's a guy who has not changed anything about himself and doesn't want to, doesn't care how you feel about it, is completely comfortable in his own skin, and he's going around drawing these big crowds, just old traditional style. Just go and do a rally, and you talk to people, and everyone's like,
Yeah, I mean, like, again, that's all great, but, like, where were these people in 2016? The emperor didn't offer the case to go away. He offered to suspend it so he can continue to blackmail him. He's not just corrupt, but he's also very stupid. True. You can do anything with money. Also true.
like, this is great. He didn't figure out like the TikTok trend. He didn't figure out exactly how to like do an explainer video
He's not
that's
like-
vertical video.
He's not like, we got to stop the oligarchy. No cap.
So that right there tells me that they understand that Bernie's politics, that's the way forward. So this is why I think that you should support candidates like Mamdani, because he is charting this path that Bernie Sanders has been charting for decades. Now, I know that John in particular doesn't agree with Bernie's politics. That's why he said that. And it's also why he co-founded a nonprofit to kill momentum for one of Bernie Sanders' signature policies. But despite that policy disagreement, I will say I appreciate them saying that authenticity matters, because that right there is recognition that something has to change. You can't do politics the way that consultants and strategists have trained modern day Democrats to do politics. It just doesn't work. It's outdated.
It's not working because the people are tired, man. The reason why it's not working is because it's not giving an alternative to the status quo, right? It's not giving an alternative to the status quo. People are tired of this system. It's not working. So if you try to package this milquetoast kind of approach without addressing the real fundamental issues, then it's going to come off as disingenuous. Yeah, whisper that to me. It's heartening to see Bernie becoming even more mainstream since his message makes sense. 100%, because exactly what I was talking about. Bernie provides an alternative, not just to Republicans, but he provides an alternative to the status quo. We really need to suspend the US from the G7 like we did with Russia. Let me take a quick peek at this. Oh, alright, we just need the picture for this one. This is funny. Look at this. This is the red... This is the red carpet. Hold on, let me... Open image. There we go. This is the red carpet that they... Yeah, more like a red doormat. That's freaking hilarious. That is freaking hilarious. Very fitting. Echo Rusted Dragon, welcome. That's just the first class boarding pad. That's all you get for the red carpet. What I miss? Marco Rubio, Little Marco's little red carpet from Canada. Mwomp, mwomp, mwomp. That's what's messed up about half of what the New York Times puts out. They act as if everyone loves the old America. It was an amoral cesspool that jailed millions of its own people and constantly bombed the ish out of random chosen brown and black countries while refusing to provide basic health care to even vets. Liddell wants to go back to that. The old America is what allowed Trump to rise in the first place. I don't disagree. Soulless Death and Despair, welcome. Little Marco's Little Red Carpet sounds like a children's book title. Oh my goodness. You know, people like Clinton most infamously. Pod Save America looks at being a leftist like being a Swiftie. They're so childish. Actually, that's a pretty good analogy. I like that. Biden wanted us to go back to the status quo so we could start there, but why waste our time?
And this is something that John himself...
Yeah, when the status quo, like when people just want like an alternative to the status quo, which is like what the whole like problem is from the beginning. I mean, you can't do the whole three-way politics. You can't do what Biden did, right?
To his credit, points it out in that same podcast by making this recommendation to Democratic Party politicians.
For at least this year, just do your politics like you're not going to look at the reaction or you're not going to read advice. You're just doing it based on what you think and believe and how you feel about things. Just try it for a little bit.
And I agree with that in theory, but the problem is that a lot of Democratic Party politicians don't have any core beliefs. For all intents and purposes, they are NPCs parroting the pre-programmed dialogue tree options given to them by their corporate donors. But that's where I think that this disconnect is coming from. John presumably isn't seeing that the reason why Bernie Sanders comes off as so authentic is because he hasn't been corrupted by corporate donors. Because he doesn't have any. Now, juxtapose him with somebody like Kamala Harris, for example, and you begin to see why people felt like she didn't really stand for anything and why her campaign wasn't connecting. I mean, she was trying to be the president for everybody. And that sounds good, but when you dive in and you see why it's contradictory, you begin to understand why nobody really took her seriously. She wanted to be the president for CEOs and the president for workers at the same time. She wanted to be the president for moderate Republicans and liberal Democrats at the same time. That style of politics does not work. It's incoherent. I get that Democrats talk about how good it is that they have a big tent, but that's actually bad. They need to shrink the tent and actually have a coherent ideology that they fight for. People want politicians who stand for something, even if they don't necessarily agree with everything that these politicians are talking about.
Yeah. Did you see that Hitler did a car promotion too? Yeah, I was actually looking at that like right not that long ago, maybe like an hour or so ago. It's like man, this is like 1 for 1, right? 1 for 1, man. We have the most lethal tent. I saw it and I had to post it. They need to kick out war criminals like Dick Cheney. If your tent is big enough for him, it's too big at the very least. Yeah, like I think that's the point. Like, you know, you want to have a lot of supporters as far as like growing the base, but the tent has to be held up by principles, right? Ideally, that tent has to be encompassing those principles. Otherwise, it doesn't work. Like your audience, your base can be broad, as long as you stick to your principles and fight for what you believe. If that makes sense. And don't forget to buy your swastikars. It's difficult in political duopoly, but once you welcome people like Cheney, you've certainly gone too far, especially when you refuse to even talk about fixing the duopoly. Yeah, exactly. But that's the thing, though, right? Exactly. So your base can be broad, but the point is, if your political tent is not held up by principles, then it's gonna certain principles, and it's gonna fall apart, right? One of them being maybe we shouldn't be palling around with war criminals. Maybe we shouldn't be palling around with a Republican representative who voted over 96% with Trump. Like, I mean, seriously. Corporate profits? And also kick out Biden. He supported the invasion of Iraq, which was just as illegal as Putin's invasion of Ukraine. Yeah, I mean, well, yeah, the old guard, essentially. Anyone who doesn't stand for anything except the status quo, right, kind of needs to go. And I think that's a lot of upper leadership. Probably most, if not all, of Democratic leadership basically just needs to go at this point. And either the Democratic Party decides that it's going to actually stand for something, or it will just keep losing. It's really that simple.
Just have thoughts of your own, and that will go a long way. I mean, if every thought that you have is filtered through pre-written talking points and pre-polled or focus group tested, nobody's going to believe that you have any unique thoughts of your own. They're just going to see you as another empty suit, willing to say whatever you think you need to say to get elected. And even Tim Walz recently came out and said that the campaign played it way too safe. And to their credit, the Pod Save Bros agreed with that sentiment.
Tim Walz is right. They did play too safe. I mean, I remember when he was named as vice president, everyone was really excited to hear him do a bunch of interviews, and then he was bottled up.
Firefly, welcome. How about Tim Walz? Yeah, he can stay, I guess. He's all right. Jay Eversick, welcome. But the Dems will do more, bigger war, and have larger border security. They're basically fash light. At this point, South Park's solution to the papacy would be a huge step forward. Make a cute bunny rabbit president.
For half the campaign, and that was obviously a mistake.
Yeah, the being afraid of taking on some of the more controversial like policy issues that the Trump campaign was making big, under the assumption that, under the hope that you ignore that, you push that down, you campaign in your most effective messages. That was like a smarter, safer thing to do. Like, it turns out that didn't work.
Totally agree. But with that being said, I think that it's worth noting that we can tell the difference between a politician who's genuine.
The Dems aren't going to change. And then, yeah, I mean, I can't expect them to, but if they don't, then they'll lose. They'll lose. And they'll keep losing. They have shown us they will do nothing to fight, but they continue to capitulate over and over again.
And a politician who's trying to fake it to make it. That's why you can't just start cursing more or rolling up your sleeves more frequently to try to come off as one of the normies, because that's not going to work. We can smell the bullshit. One example is Gavin Newsom. You know, one of the criticisms of Kamala Harris's campaign was that she didn't do enough long-form interviews on podcasts and whatnot. And a lot of people thought that she avoided that because she didn't want her ideas to be challenged, which I think is true. But Gavin Newsom sees this, and what he takes away from that is, oh, I should start my own podcast and exclusively platform right-wing fascists and agree with them on things. But that's not why people were criticizing Kamala Harris for not doing more long-form interviews. Not that the Pod Save Bros are defending Gavin Newsom. Just as an example, like, the reason why people thought that she should do more long-form interviews was because we wanted to hear more.
Yeah, but
than
like,
just.
I mean, I think that the election was cooked regardless. Like, she could have done 1 million long-form interviews. I don't think it would have made a difference. I'm gonna be honest. Won't be the first time his party was tossed into the dustbin of history. I think we're at a new party change, and it needs to go the way of the Whigs. I mean, like, basically, that's their only choice, right? If they're not going to change, and the chances of them changing would be slim to none, then they will go the way of the Whigs. And it was Obama, not Bush or Trump, who started the, hey, let's just go around murdering people based on sole judgment of the president with no charge, no trial, no nothing. Call that a drone strike. Right, but yeah, exactly. Like, if that doesn't work, then yeah, they'll just be gone. The DNC is giving Versailles. Yeah. I wish they would fight like they did against Bernie. I have never seen the Dems so organized and focused in shutting him down. Yeah, I mean, that's when you want them to fight, yeah, they'll fight progressives like that, but they won't fight a literal fascist takeover. She would have either had to endorse popular policies or renounce unpopular ones. Yeah. Which, I mean, yes, that's what you want, right? Like, that's literally what a politician's job is, right? You're supposed to go and offer people what you would do. Doesn't matter what election it is, someone rich and powerful will win, regardless of the letter next to their name. They won't change and they won't fight against the right.
The same 8 pre-planned talking points that we heard over and over and over again. We wanted to know what she stood for, what were her individual beliefs. And the fact that you're able to memorize and recite more talking points than her doesn't convince anybody that you're more authentic, Gavin. Strategically pivoting to the center ahead of a presidential run doesn't scream authenticity. You just look like a fucking opportunist. And try as you might, you can't fake authenticity. So that's the point that I'm trying to make. In telling Democrats to be more authentic, I hope that the takeaway isn't, well, I'll just go off script more, but stick to, a general outline of what I want to say. No, just like, be humans. That's what we want. We want you to be human beings, not robots. Just tell me what you think. And if I disagree, I'll disagree. I'll tell you my thoughts, right? But don't be a fucking robot. That's the point that I want to drive home, because I think there's going to be a lot of politicians who are going to try to exploit this anti-establishment fervor that's building on the left now too. But we don't want a phony. We don't want a huckster. We want somebody who is genuine like Bernie Sanders. You know, you either have authenticity or you don't. But the reason why people crave it in the first place is because we want to know that you're as pissed off as we are. We want to know that you actually care about saving the country as much as we do.
Yeah, it's basically like, do you have something to offer that is not the status quo wrapped up in a BS sugar pill? The worst politician, the worst is politicians who just shapeshift into whoever they're talking to wants to hear. Yeah, and that's the problem. Like a lot of the reasons why people don't really like these corporate Dems is because that's exactly what they are. I ask people honestly and sincerely at this point, what more do you need to see to convince you that they are no longer salvageable? They haven't been salvageable for a long time. Yeah, and they will lose. They will keep losing. So yeah, there's only one path forward. Right? There's only one path forward here.
And that you're not just saying what you're saying to placate us, to position yourself for a run for a higher office in the future. We want you to be a human. That is what is missing. And it's not just about what you say, it's about what you do and what you plan to do and whether or not we think you're going to follow through on the things that you say you want to do. Because we've heard promises from politicians, and year after year, the country continues to circle the drain, and the best we get is some crumbs here and there, some incremental fixes around the edges. We want somebody who is going to come in with a bold, progressive agenda that has sincere beliefs about how to make the country better. And the reason why Bernie Sanders is resonating with so many people is because you can sense that this is what he wants. He has beliefs about how to make the country better. He's deeply troubled by what he's seeing in the country. In fact, in that same episode of Pod Save America...
Yeah, not only that, like Bernie articulates what the problems are and what is to be done about it. The fact that the entire swaths of the country is de facto disenfranchised, example in presidential elections, if you vote in California, it'd be more productive to spend your time messaging to balloons and sending them out to God. Yeah, I mean, well, that's a whole other problem. As you mentioned, the duopoly. James Carville is probably the worst. James Carville is the worst of them. He couldn't be more condescending. I can't stand James Carville. If a Democratic Socialist Party doesn't emerge from all these last attempt efforts from Bernie with all these rallies he's been doing, then we have zero counter to this fascist speed run from the Republican Party. Yeah, I mean, like literally, it's all coming down to like this octogenarian, okay, trying to like literally rally people against fascism. That's literally what this is coming down to. This octogenarian who has like a lot of good intentions and does have a genuine care for people and does have good friggin' policies, is literally throwing a Hail Mary, touring the country to try to rally people together. I was out stargazing and having a conversation with my dog last night and really questioning when we stopped punching in the face.
One of the hosts interviewed Bernie Sanders and told him that he sensed that there was this sort of gravity in his voice that he'd never heard before when talking about the danger that Trump poses, and Bernie explained why he's so scared in a really eloquent way.
These are, the scariest times in my lifetime. That's all. I mean, I think that's objectively the truth. It is not just they want to give tax breaks to billionaires and cut programs for working people. Frankly, that's happened before.
Yeah.
But you combine that with the power of the oligarchy in general. It's
Bipedal Meatbag, welcome. Rodrigo Duterte was arrested by the ICC the other day. Wow. I mean, that doesn't mean people should give up, but got to be realistic. It's likely going to get a lot worse before it gets better. Yeah, I mean, realistically, like the odds of things just magically getting better are not very good. So understand that, and that should probably prompt people to seek community. Right? It should prompt people to seek community, because the only way this works is if we all are in this together. Fascism isn't a rash that goes away on its own. We need some steroids.
It's not only the power of money, it's also combined with that the movement toward authoritarianism.
And he's right. And you can sense the sincerity in his voice. So this is why so many people are flocking to Bernie Sanders again, and politicians like him, because he cares. He cares as much as we do. That's evident, which is something that you can't say about Democratic Party leaders like Hakeem Jeffries or Chuck Schumer and Ken Martin. Unlike most politicians, Bernie Sanders isn't doing what he does to get ahead. He's not doing the fight the oligarchy tour because there's something to be gained by it. He's too old to run for president, and he's not getting paid to do this, I'm sure. He's doing it because he's as desperate as we are to stop fascism.
Right, like this literally like 80-something-year-old, okay, is literally throwing a freaking Hail Mary to try to like open people's eyes. I don't think Trump will leave in 2029. In 2021, he started an armed insurrection. He's going to do a lot worse. I mean, like, he's not exactly in the best of health. So, I mean, even if he does somehow manage to live and be in a position to try to, like, stay on the presidency, I'm not sure how that's going to go. I think that what's more troubling is that if all these people around him, right, all these ghouls around him, kind of use Trump, they use Trump as a vehicle to set up someone perhaps younger, like a J.D. Vance, to then be that person. Does that make sense? Trump Jr. is pondering a run for president. Is that that's Butthead? Yeah, Butthead. Welcome our new overlord, Elon Musk, Lord of Twitter. He is an idiot. Emperor Palpatine was basically a corpse. True. But he was fueled by the dark side. And he, even he didn't last forever. So, yeah. But that's not the point. Regardless, even if Trump does want to try to stay past his time, we have to be together. It seems that the Republicans have gathered every nightmarish dystopian novel in 1984, Handmaid's Tale, and used them as a playbook. Seriously. Welcome, Mama Katie. They said it was a rigged election. This time he can't claim that since he's ineligible for re-election, but I'm sure he'll find some excuse. I mean, like they're throwing out feelers. They're throwing out feelers by saying we should probably rethink the 22nd Amendment. I mean, it doesn't matter. Him respecting the law and him respecting the Constitution is kind of like out the window. So, you know, it won't be legal for sure, but it doesn't matter because he doesn't care. They're still claiming that the 2016 election is rigged even though Trump won. True, by the way. Yeah. Yep. They're still on about the 2020 election. They're still on about how Trump should have won by an even bigger margin. Trump should have won by an even bigger margin because illegals voted for Hillary Clinton. A thing that he said, by the way. Fueled by hatred, true, but not fueled by McDonald's.
That is what we want.
Do you think the Republicans will ever use the 25th Amendment on Donald Trump? No, not a shot. No chance. Zero chance. Well, I don't want to say zero, but the chances of that like actually legitimately happening are very, very little. Laws, what are those? If you're a rich oligarch, then they are toilet paper. And the Constitution says whatever the Supreme Court says it does, and the Supreme Court has also said that the clear and unequivocal ban on people who have sworn an oath to the U.S. and then engage in high treason are ineligible to run is void. So yeah. I mean, you know, exactly. Like even if they said like, hey man, someone who has given aid to insurrectionists wouldn't be eligible to run under the 14th Amendment. Who cares? He still ran and won anyways. I can see if Trump messes up too big, JD Vance is just waiting. Maybe. I mean, like Trump really, what Trump is, right? What Trump is a vehicle, right? Like that's what Trump is. Trump is a vehicle to make this work. Trump is the vehicle that's going to make this work because all you have to do is be loyal to Trump, right? Pretend and show fealty to Trump and push your stuff that he, at the very least, doesn't like disagree with, and it lay down the foundation because Trump is, again, old and he's not in very good health, right? So use him as the vehicle to lay down that foundation that's going to put whoever's coming as the real deal. He's a game show host for fascism. Exactly. His ideology is not fueling MAGA, it's the other way around.
Want politicians to
Yeah, because Trump is a narcissist, right?
genuinely care.
Like Trump, by the way, like Trump does like fundamentally like somewhere in there kind of agree. It just so happens that he's getting applause for all of this, right?
And he is giving Americans one more chance to try to understand that there is power in numbers and there's value in working class solidarity. And he explained this in that same interview. And I want to highlight that because what he says is very important.
Because of the corrupt campaign finance system. If some Republican today stands up and says, you know what? I am not going to cut Medicaid in my district to give tax breaks to billionaires. You know what happens? The next day, Musk says, guess what, fella? We're going to primary you. I got endless amounts of money. You're in trouble. These guys are scared to death. They're scared to death of Musk. But we're going to have to force them to make a choice. They can be scared to death of Musk or they can be scared to death of their own constituents. That's the choice we're going to make.
Yeah, and like that's the thing. That's it right there, right? That's it right there. The only way, Bernie's giving you the antidote right here. The only Hail Mary, okay, and this is why it's so important that we as the working class operate together, that we as the working class unite together. Because that's it. That's the antidote. We don't have an infinite money glitch, okay? but we certainly have people. These rich oligarchs are so far out of touch from reality, I fear they literally see the world as nothing more than a VR game. Trump just bought 3 Teslas that he'll never be able to drive. Yep. And incidentally, I think Echo Wrestler Dragon brought this up. Incidentally, that's also a thing Hitler did. I suspect he might have some sort of dementia. Some of his behavior certainly reminds me of my little grandma's Alzheimer's near the end. She didn't turn evil or anything, but stuff like the absence of long-term memory. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Trump operating a motor vehicle is a scary thought. Yeah, I mean, he as president will never be able to drive, essentially. Has Donald Trump ever driven anything other than a golf cart? Serious question. Unclear. We, the oppressed, are not prescribing the limits of these tyrants. Correct.
And that right there is a crucial message. He also pointed out at a different point in the interview that fascists like Elon Musk and Donald Trump, they want you to become demoralized. They want you to feel hopeless because when you stop resisting, that's when they really win. That makes their jobs easier.
Right. And like that's the whole point of driving these wedges, right? Like that's the whole point of driving these culture war wedges, right? That's the reason why these oligarchs prop up racism, right? This is why it's so intertwined with white supremacy and bigotry and xenophobia. Like all of this is interconnected because they need that. He grew up rich in New York City. He was driven everywhere. I imagine how giddy and euphoric they all feel. We're just letting them all do this. They likely think we're all weak and pathetic and useless because we don't fight back, and they must think that, well, if they won't stop us, then why the hell should we stop? Correct. It's like that. I think we played this the other day. The scene from A Bug's Life. Try Gluteus Maximus. It's like that scene from A Bug's Life, right? One puny ant can be stomped out, but the moment the colony of ants work together, there goes the oppressor's way of life. It's a timeless scene. Yep, and something that I've watched quite a bit amount of times as a kid. So yeah, just some innocent pirate talk.
But what we have to do right now is recalibrate. Right now, since money buys elections, politicians are more responsive to their donors than they are to voters. So Bernie is trying the best that he can to change that dynamic, even if it might be too late. And thankfully, more Democrats who actually do care are following his lead. That includes individuals like Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who is also planning to go to red districts to speak directly to the constituents of Republican members of Congress to offer them an alternative vision for the country. Now, this is what you have to do to cultivate working class solidarity among working people. It's something that works. And do you want to know how I know that it works? Because Fox News is already talking about this strategy, and they're trying to throw a wrench in their plans to bring working class people together. For example, Greg Gutfeld, he said that he doesn't know how somebody like AOC could even have a conversation with Republicans because of her hyperfixation on identity politics. Listen to what he says.
Curious how you can have this fabled, honest conversation liberals always talk about when each conversation is terminated with those load-bearing phrases. Like,
I can't stand this guy. I don't know how anybody stands this guy. I mean, seriously. Every time this guy talks, my blood pressure instantly increases. Unfortunately, it's got Spacey, but fortunately, he's a bad guy at least.
Like racism, xenophobia, transphobia, sexist. How can you have a conversation? Let's say you go to a Republican area and you talk about their resistance to trans in sports. Where does that conversation lead? Do you immediately say what you always say? That's transphobic? Because that's not where the conversation ends.
It is, though. That's literally what it is. It's just like, okay, the conversation about trans people in sports is simply just to, it's simply just to sugar pill transphobia. That's it. Because it's not about, like actually caring about women's sports. These people have never cared about women's sports in their entire freaking life. Okay? If they cared about women's sports, they would be supporting women's sports. They would have a history of supporting women's sports. This has nothing to do with protecting women, protecting women's sports, protecting women's spaces, whatever. This is just simply about pushing hate. That's it. That's it. That's all it is. That's all it is. So yeah, like the conversation, the moment like one of these clowns brings up trans people in sports, that's it. It's just like by default, like the conversation is designed to be a vehicle for transphobia. That's it. No Talk, thank you for the follow. Nice freeze frame. I got a good one, didn't I? I didn't even mean to do that. I didn't even mean to do that. Also, what the F is a Republican area? People talk about the election result as if it was a 49-47 win, is some kind of epic victory. Yep. There was a great comment by one Trump voter with a teenage daughter who wanted to protect her in the changing room, so he voted for a guy who brags that he walks into changing rooms of underage girls. Correct. Exactly. That's how you, like, that's the tell, right? Like, dude, you don't care about freaking women's spaces. Bro, you elected a literal predator. Do we hate Trump here? Yeah, fascism is kind of like not cool. So yeah, you're not going to get very far. Unlike virtually all trans girls, Donald Trump is a sexual predator. Correct. And like, but that's the thing. That's the thing. Like, they're not talking about.
That's where it starts.
That they're not talking about protecting women from predators. Like, they're not actually talking about. They don't give a crap about women. Okay, like let's be real. Okay, the only thing that they care, insofar as women go, is that they can bear children and they cook food. That's it. That's the beginning and end as far as they care about women. I think that is a fair description of the views of probably literally everyone here. I'm not very politically savvy, but I know what's right and wrong, and that man is wrong. They hate women, actually. Yeah, I mean, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. Like, they loathe women. They don't see them as people because, well, their indoctrination with this weird Christian nationalistic, like the dominionism, all that kind of just has warped these people to think of women as, well, property. At best, they see women as sex toys. Vessels. Yeah, vessels. At worst, I don't even want to think about it. To quote a wise trans man, if dinosaurs are cool, transphobia is not. True.
It's not transphobic. It's common sense. Can she have that?
But yeah, like, see, that's the thing, though. Like, that's a Mott and Bailey, right? Like, oh, well, it's just common sense. Like, dude, we're not talking about women's sports, dude, at this point.
For the Dems is that whether it's border, DEI, or crime, the social justice lingo begins and ends with racist, 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 racist.
And this is...
Well, depends, man. If you're the one that's bringing up DEI because you can't say the N-word, right? Like how we have a bunch of, like, go on Twitter and search up DEI and see what you'll find. Like, oh, the DEI, a partner of so-and-so, the DEI hire, when they really just mean black people. I mean, like, come on, man. Of course this is about racism. You're doing the racism, my dude. Calling Trump a man of God is such a hypocritical thing to say, since he has had more than one wife and has done so many things that are not acceptable. It's sad America said. Well, yeah, well, you know. If you have a problem with conversation about equality, then you have a then you have a problem. Yeah, exactly. Someone called the Trump a man of God. A lot of people seem to think that. Unfortunately, a lot of people seem to think that. Common sense back in the day was humans couldn't fly cars, and cars would die out in a few years.
Is a classic divide and conquer strategy that so many Democrats fall for. I'm looking at you, Greasy Gavin. Republicans are trying to bait Democrats into throwing their own constituents under a bus in order to debate them on their own terms.
Right.
It's a pretty effective strategy, and I want to show you what I mean. So the ACLU has tracked more than 500 anti-LGBTQ plus bills across the country just in the 2025 legislative session alone. And when we respond by defending queer people from the erosion of their civil rights, the right subsequently accuses us of being obsessed with LGBTQ issues to the detriment of other issues, especially kitchen table issues. So they manufactured the situation where...
and again, and just to be clear, they don't care about kitchen table issues either. They don't care about kitchen tables issues either. They don't care about the price of eggs. Not really. They don't care about how the rising cost of living is crushing the working class. They don't care that I mean, you can tell they literally have an oligarch as a president. Their political leader is an oligarch. The richest man on the planet is literally like right there as a shadow president. If Trump cared about kitchen table issues, he wouldn't intentionally tank the economy. Yeah, egg prices are up. I bet in the back scenes, Trump and Elon are having Gex? Oh. I'm not going to read too much into it. They want to squeeze whatever is left at the bottom class to fill their pockets even more. Right. Like, if they actually cared about kitchen table issues, like, they would be singing a different tune.
Where if Democrats stand down and let Republicans target this minority who's vulnerable, well, they piss off their base who rightfully feels abandoned, who expects more.
So in short, common sense is just something used to put down dreamers and those who think outside the box. The richest man on the planet is a spontaneous apartheid-loving Nazi. Who incidentally is acting as like shadow president of the United States. Because used to be common sense that fascism and Nazis are bad. Now look, they changed that by pushing past those common sense arguments. Yeah.
Expects to be defended
that's true.
Since they support this party. But if Democrats respond and they defend LGBTQ plus people from these attacks, well, then that's just proof that they care more about they/them than you and I, as the Trump ad puts it. Like, they're directly trying to pit working class people against each other. They're trying to create a lose-lose situation for Democrats. They're forcing Democrats to constantly play defense. And Democrats fall for it way too much. But the goal here is to get regular people to think that politics is a zero-sum game and that every second Democrats spend defending trans rights is a second that they could have spent defending working-class cis people. And this isn't the only group that they target, by the way. I mean, during the Reagan era, he would conjure up images of welfare queens, i.e. black single mothers, and claim that they're not working and they're sucking up...
Yeah, he did. He did. He did. Because, Yeah, that's right. Because it used to be common sense that fascism and Nazis are bad. Now look, they've changed that by pushing to pass those common sense arguments.
All the resources that you're paying for with your tax dollars. And it was an effective tactic to get white people mad at black people. This is what they have always done. They benefit from bigotry and racism and xenophobia and transphobia and homophobia and all the phobias and isms. The goal is to pit working class people against each other and have them fight each other so that way they never see that their struggles are interconnected. Because if we're fighting each other, then nobody's going to pay attention to the people at the top robbing us blind. It's the oldest trick in the book. And do you want to know who warned us about this right-wing strategy decades ago? Bernard Sanders.
If you are the Republican leadership, and this is what your goals are, your goals are to give huge tax breaks to the very richest people in this country. Your goals are ultimately to privatize Social Security so that Wall Street can make money from that. Privatize Medicare so the insurance companies can make more money. Privatize education. Do away with public schools. If those are your goals and you said that to the American...
Yeah, he is. Bernie Sanders is on our side. Divide and conquer and people never learn. Yep. Globus, welcome. Welcome. Bernard.
American people. You think you got a lot of lower? There are many members of the Congress today, Republicans, who not only will not raise the minimum wage, which is $5.15 an hour. You know what they will tell you, honestly? They believe in abolishing the minimum wage. Did you know that? Check it out. Telling you the truth. So that if Americans can work for $3 an hour or $2 an hour, not a problem. Now, if you had an agenda like that and you went before the American people, tax breaks for the rich, destruction of Medicare, destruction of Social Security as we know it, lowering the minimum wage or abolishing it, how many votes did you think you'd get? Not a whole lot. Maybe the richest 1% would vote for you. But that's not a lot of votes. So what do? I've got a problem. You package it. How do you package it? And here's, I want you to pay attention to me. What you do is divide.
Look at that young whippersnapper. Trump doesn't have the stature of a president. His hair's so well white, but there's more of it.
Divide people up. When you asked me your question, how do I get elected? I said, I try to bring people together. We fight for women's rights. We support the rights of minorities. We support the rights of workers. We bring the majority of people together. And occasionally, honest people will have differences of opinion. In this room, there will be differences of opinion. So on those issues, we bring people together. Now, what do the Republicans try to do? We divide people up by races. Affirmative action becomes one issue.
Yep.
All them black people are getting the jobs that we white people used to have.
Yep.
Split people, working class, white against black. Instead of working together to create decent jobs for all. Those uppity women now.
Yep.
They want the right to choose. We'll split people on the abortion issue. We'll split people up on the gun issue. We'll split people up on religious issues. You follow what I'm saying? So you split people up, and then they end up, if you're a middle-class person, voting against your own interests, and the rich go laughing all the way to the bank. Our job is to say, let's focus on basic economic issues. How do we expand the middle class? This is a great country. Why is it the average American is working longer hours for low wages than 30 years ago? Let's talk about that.
And decades later, they haven't changed a thing. Same policies, same tactics.
Yeah, unfortunately, links don't really work here, so you're gonna have to, if you want, just pass it over. Pass it over to me, and I can post it in chat. Was it a robbery with style or a day robbery? Not even with style. It just kind of happened.
It's been happening for a very long time. But that's why it's so important to build working class solidarity so people understand that trans people and immigrants and people of color are exploited by the same system that exploits everyone else. And if you show up for them, they're going to show up for you. Liberation for them is liberation for the rest of us. You have their back, they'll have your back. And the same is true for every other marginalized community. This is why there's so much power in Bernie Sanders' message, because it's antithetical to the divisive politics of fascists like Donald Trump. If working class people stop hating each other, they become a force to be reckoned with. It's why we have to counter racism with anti-racism. It's why we have to fight intolerance with tolerance. Explain to working class people that trans people aren't the enemy. Fostering this kind of unity is exactly what Bernie Sanders and leftists like myself are trying to do, because that is the antidote to fascism. So I appreciate that so many people, including the Pod Save Bros, are coming around to Bernie Sanders' politics. You know, it's more moral, it's more persuasive, it's just better politics than whatever corporate Democrats have been doing now for decades. If you want Democrats to win, you opt for that. And listen, they want Democrats to win. I want fascists to lose. There's no reason why we shouldn't be working together. I get that liberals and leftists don't always see eye to eye because we have fundamental disagreements on policy and worldviews. But I think that to defeat fascism, it is necessary that we form a coalition to stop fascism.
Yeah, I mean, like, basically, like, we're at the point where, like, it has to be stopped, and we're going to need people. In my opinion, it's the biggest story of this presidency so far, and I say that as someone who takes this threat of invading Denmark 100% seriously, which would mean my country is at war. The only thing that's keeping capitalism alive in the country is fear of is FOMO, and I'm over it.
And all that I ask is that liberals help us once in a while, do what they can to help politicians like Mamdani when they still have the chance to attain power, not after it's already too late, when the threat that they pose to the system, the establishment, is no longer there. So help us help you, and maybe we'll be able to crush these fascist fucks once and for all.
Yeah, and like, man, come on. Okay? Think of it from a pragmatic point of view. If you keep doing the same thing over and over again, and you keep losing, and the people, okay, that have a winning message, that have the winning message, are telling you what the answer is, why not listen? Because at the end of the day, they'll come for you too. Losing is relative. Pelosi earned hundreds of millions.
And actually save the country.
And she can just take that money offshore to be protected from Trump's thieving. Let's talk about this Tesla thing just for a minute. So this is Hitler promoting the people's car. So I feel like that's probably relevant to this conversation. If she cares that much about Democrats' constituencies, why doesn't she invest a little of her unearned wealth into those constituencies? She can solve world hunger with a couple $100 million, but she could do a lot. She can't solve world hunger, but she can do a lot.
Donald Trump and Elon Musk. Oh, I don't know if people know that these guys work together at all. But Elon Musk, when he's not trying to starve children, either in this country or, frankly, other countries, or when he's not trying to crash people's college debt, make it impossible to pay back their loans, when he's not trying to keep the...
Which incidentally affects us directly. We're still not sure what's going to happen with that. We're just kind of bracing for impact. we're just kind of bracing for impact on what's going to end up happening with these student loans. So yeah.
EPA from protecting the health of people who live in low-income neighborhoods when he's not trying to stop investment in other green technologies, when he is not trying to scrape all of Americans' data from the Treasury Department, when he's not trying to crash the Social Security system, Medicaid system, when he's not trying to steal data of children from HHS. He's also overseeing a car company that apparently is beginning to sink like a rock. I don't read the car press that often, but my understanding is that the
you don't even have to be that in tune, right, with like the car industry to know that like Tesla has taken quite the hit. Read and Rap, welcome. Yeah, it's not looking good. I'm just me. He's just trying to crash my 401k. Yeah, I mean, like, you know, since pensions basically don't exist, I mean, that's gonna personally affect me on that end too. I should have just invested in the Trump's meme coin. I owe 140k and I can never pay it back. Yeah, I mean, the situation is similar. The situation is similar. I think it's just over 100k, and we're not quite sure how that's gonna play out. But, you know, I guess we'll cross that bridge when it gets there.
Product line is now sort of like getting a little long in the tooth. People are sick of all the recalls, and he has completely ruined the brand of Tesla. So what does he do? Well, does he call his friend or does he call his business partner? Maybe they're both the same thing. Hey, any chance I could get you to promote Tesla on the White House lawn? Sure.
Bring Me the Horizon, USA Ascension Program, Part 1.
So all these Bring Me the Horizon. Now that's a name I haven't heard in a minute and a half. Wow.
That was one incredible award. So they're great cars and they're American made. And I think, you know, try it. You'll like it.
And I should say, beyond the cars.
Literally making a freaking advertisement in the White House lawn. I mean, you know, the situation is bad for Tesla when you've got Elon rolling out Tesla cars in front of the White House and having Trump buy one, even though, like, we all know he can't actually drive it. It feels like I'm forced to be in poverty until I die, which, depending on this administration, could be varying amounts of time. Sheesh. Tesla sales in Germany, Europe's biggest market for EVs, have tanked 76%. Yeah, I was reading something to that effect. They worked with Blair White? Wow. Shill, baby, shill.
They're great, but we have to celebrate somebody that has the courage to do this. He could have said, I'm not doing anything, I'm not going to get involved, let the country go to hell. He didn't want to do that. And remember, he's going to find, and we're up to almost $500 billion worth of waste and fraud. And if he was 500...
Yeah, we're still pushing this bullshit narrative. Although I think we should confiscate any and all Elmo's assets in the EU. And here, too, by the way. I'm not too opposed to that. But you guys probably, in the European Union, probably have more mechanisms to do that than we do here.
We give him $2 billion here, $2 billion, and not millions. It was a bet.
Billions.
It was $1 million.
A million,
$2
a billion,
That's
2
a lot of
billion,
money.
10 billion,
But we're
1
talking
million.
about
I don't know.
billions
Do
of
you know?
dollars.
Pause it for a
It's
second. That's
fun.
interesting. Incidentally, there is absolutely nothing backing up the claim that they have cut $500 billion in waste. It's just absolutely 100% not.
Yeah.
But
I mean, like, yeah, seriously. It's just like even if you don't know, like, even if you're not in touch, right? Even if you're not like the biggest political frog like we are over here, that sounds a little bit suspect, right? That just sounds a little bit. It sounds a little bit exaggerated to say like, oh man, look at all the work that Elon's been doing. He's found $500 billion in waste. Or waste, fraud, and abuse, as they keep using the same freaking buzzwords. Yeah, okay, buddy. But in the EU, it's more realistic for this to happen soonish, but extremely unlikely. Doesn't help that Britain is stabbing us in the back by seeking a separate trade peace. I want Grimes to take back her goddamn child. Seriously.
he's right. $1 million is a lot of money. Donald Trump ended up buying one of these cars. You want to see what he got for a rebate on this?
A rebate? He didn't even
It's
pay full
they got
price?
A great rebate program for this one.
Wow.
There it is. $100 million directly into the Trump political operation. Wow, what a coincidence. You scratch my back, I scratch your back.
Tesla supposedly doesn't pay for advertising. So
there you go. It's all word of mouth. All we got to do is find the right
look at
influencer.
this image, the shabbiness of this, to have cars lined up like it's a car dealership right in front of the...
This is so freaking wild. Like, never would I have imagined that we would be living in a timeline where we have like this cheap suited used car man, used car salesman running the country, literally like a used car salesman. Britain isn't even retaliating on the tariffs. I've had a low opinion of Starmer, but damn, he still managed to be severely worse. That is some great imagery, especially with that horrid so-called Cybertruck. I mean, like, this is just wild. I don't even have the proper words. It's just so, like, wild. It's absurd. It's absurd.
Now listen, we have presidents who promote American-made vehicles all the time. I think I remember Biden getting into maybe a Ford Mustang and driving away.
Right.
But how naked it is had the CEO of...
Yeah, but like I would argue that like the difference is like the message that Biden was saying is buy American. The message that Trump is saying is help my buddy Elon make more money, right? Because he's been treated very unfairly. Okay, very unfairly. They're trying to take him down. So like, yeah, it's a little bit different than like a president trying to like convince people or urge people or encourage people, I guess is the right word, to buy American. Well, Trump has taken corruption at the White House to a whole new level. Quite an achievement. Yeah, no doubt. The Cherry Blossom Festival is soon and would have been beautiful. They couldn't wait a few weeks.
Ford contributed $300 million to getting Biden elected. I think it would raise a few eyebrows.
Yeah.
And then on the day that he rolls out in that Thunderbird or whatever it was.
And rightfully so, by the way.
Then he gets another $100 million into his pack. That just seems a little suspicious, doesn't
A little
it?
bit.
Am I the only person who notices something weird there?
Friends can't do that sort of stuff with each other these days.
It's just a coincidence.
Yeah.
It's a coincidence. I mean, they are politically aligned, certainly. But that's just, I mean, this is what this presidency is. This is what this regime is. And play the clip of the Republican lawmakers who are outraged at this notion that Donald Trump would be like just open it out.
Yeah, play those clips. I want to see them. All right. I actually don't know if I actually don't know if this is a joke or not. Because I genuinely don't know if there's even a clip to show.
Open, taking essentially a bribe. Play that clip.
Hey guys, my name is Harris Heller, and I've been a full-time YouTuber for over 10 years now. And if you are a YouTuber...
Oh, it doesn't exist.
Look, not gonna lie, he had me in the first half, okay? Not gonna lie, he had me in the first half.
Shocking. Meanwhile, speaking of scandals involving Tesla and Elon Musk, we just told you about the Elon Musk advertisement that the Trump administration did, which, again, American-made product. Why wouldn't you? With the slight sort of twist that there has never been a single bigger contributor to a single campaign in the history of America that was larger than Elon Musk's contribution to Donald Trump's campaign in the 2024 election. And now, on that same day or the day after that he does the commercial, Musk donates another $100 million to Donald Trump's PAC. Tesla seems to have a little sort of quirky thing going on in Canada. You've heard the stories that Tesla in Europe may be in trouble because their entire business model has been selling cars and then basically providing the carbon offsets as its real way of making money by selling those to other corporations. Basically, their profit model is
a Ponzi scheme. What Sam is describing is a Ponzi scheme. Bad Lefty, welcome. That reminds me of Substack. Yeah, that reminds me. I've got to finish. I've got to finish what I'm cooking for the next Substack article. In effect, the makers of fossil cars are forced to subsidize EVs in the EU.
To create a net neutral, with every sale, they will net neutralize carbon footprint. So it's sort of like, I mean, imagine when you went to go buy an electric car, you were like, oh, this is great. I'm not going to be burning fossil fuels. But in fact, actually what you are is allowing the burning of fossil fuels to exist. I think it would sort of undercut your whole, like I can tell you that my uncle.
Wait, I take that back. That is not a Ponzi scheme. I misunderstood the explanation of what's happening here. As a major seller of EVs, a lot of that money went to Tesla, and when the Tesla sells fewer cars, they obviously lose that subsidy too. Gotcha.
Years ago was a Chrysler dealership, and so I know this. Chrysler at one point bought this company called GEM. This was like 30 years ago. And GEM makes those like little sort of flatbeds that you see at football games that
I retract my statement. I misunderstood that he was using those subsidies to get more stuff and create money out of thin air. I got a dip for now, finishing making up some bread. Thank you. Thank you for hanging out. I appreciate that. No problem, Narwhal. Cedar explained it correctly. As far as I know, I'm not an expert. He's certainly not grossly wrong. Yeah, I know. Yeah, he explained it correctly. I misunderstood him. I misunderstood what Tesla was doing with that subsidy.
will drive off players that have been injured. And those are electric. And the reason why Chrysler bought GEM was because they wanted to lower their entire fleet's
EU regulation is going to be a bit complex at times. Nope, skill issue on my end.
average mileage per gallon of gas, or I should say raise it to fit with CAFE standards that were issued. This
Hey,
must
Soul
have
Life,
been
how's it
maybe
going?
during the Clinton administration. And so that's basically what the scam that the Tesla is. But
it's like one of those shoe companies that if you buy them, they give a pair of shoes to a needy person in another part of the world, but instead they're just giving a carbon offset to like Exxon or something.
Exactly. But it turns out there's something they're
The letter
maybe a
hack,
different
welcome.
scam that Tesla was involved in. Crystal Ball has been following it. Take this
Pokey
just from
Prickle,
right
welcome.
before she brings in the Canadians.
Sorry I'm late. No problem, B-Cat. Welcome.
People. So, yeah, right around here. She has been following this and runs a Canadian report, and it's sort of fascinating. These things, in one particular weekend, flew off the shelves, as it were.
Snap your W-2 and file your taxes 100% free. Plus, get your biggest refund. File free.
More significant.
By the way, that's a load of crap, okay? A lot of these companies like end up making you pay to file your taxes. Anyways, folks, a couple of shout outs. I'm gonna say hello, but I'm modding. No problem. Hey, no problem. Thank you for being here. I remember it's technically not a subsidy, it's a market-based climate action like cap and trade. Gotcha. Folks, if you haven't already done so, please consider checking out Globus the Elder. And let's see if that works. Is that gonna work? No? Ah, there it is. Hey, how come that didn't work? Oh my goodness. Oh, you see it? Okay, well, as long as it works. As long as it works. There we go. And also, check out the letter hack on YouTube, folks.
Could also be a potential indicator of just how desperate the floundering company has become as pressures from a toxic leader, a stale product line, and increased competition mount. Tesla is now being investigated for possible government fraud, not of our government, but of Canada. An irony, to say the least, at a moment when Elon is posturing like the ultimate warrior against government waste, fraud, and abuse. Lest you think this is some sort of politically motivated witch hunt because of Elon's position in an administration currently waging economic war on Canada, take a listen to the facts from this local Canadian news report.
A suspicious spike in Tesla sales has experts in the industry scratching their heads. It started with a deadline in January for Ottawa's rebate program on electric vehicles that allegedly prompted a mad rush to buy EVs. CTV's Adrian.
Mini ADT over Mini Matt. Yeah, do that. Do the thing. If we didn't have 100% tariffs on cars from China, BYD would be smoking Tesla, and sales numbers are just better cars. Yeah, I've seen a lot of good things about the Chinese electric market, but yeah, they're not allowed here. Letterhack does a live like 5 days a week. Yeah, go check them out. Oh, whoops. I'm just really bad at this
And
today.
Gabriel's been crunching the numbers. And Adrian, do they add up?
Sandy, a spike in purchases was to be expected, though the reported sale of 8,600 Teslas, equaling $43 million in rebates at 4 Canadian Tesla locations, has sparked plenty of questions.
Pause it. Now,
Wheaties 420. Thank you for the follow. Welcome.
I'll tell you something right now. That, like I said, my uncle was a car dealer back in the day. 8,600 cars, 4 dealers. That's pretty good numbers. That is really good numbers.
Almost a little too good of numbers. Same with pickup trucks from Europe. They're not allowed here either. They're not allowed here either. We have to provide economic welfare for U.S. extensions. I mean, truck makers.
On an annual basis, if you have 4 car dealerships that are moving 2,000, 2,100, 2,150 a year, that is a lot of cars. Remember, there's only 365 days in the year. You're moving 3 cars a day off that lot every single day.
Maybe they got a really good Glengarry Glen Ross style pep talk those days.
Somebody's really good.
Nice. Rich Rebuilds just did a review of the illegal EVs. They're affordable, luxurious, get double battery, and can run on gas if you really need them to. Wow.
Good at sales there. Somebody's really good at sales. But it turns out those are not annual numbers. Go ahead.
Canadian Tesla locations has sparked plenty of questions. In the west end of Toronto, this one Tesla location alone reported selling more than 1,200 vehicles on January 11th, totaling more than $4 million in rebates.
Wow, wait a second. These guys are good car salesmen.
Always be closing.
1,200 on January 11th.
Amazing.
That's pretty good. Of course, now, to be fair, January 11th could be, I'm not Canadian, but it could be National Everybody Buy a Car Day at this dealership. And January 11th, to be fair, is a Saturday. So people,
Yeah, and it's phenomenal. I hurt myself tonight. I ate way too much soup. Now my belly hurts. I might just puke. What have I become? Good question. Elon Musk? Over 1,000 cars in one day from one dealer when it's not even end of year? Yeah, totally believable.
Off work. And, 1,200 coming in that day and all buying cars.
In this economy?
If you get your yield right? Everybody's got their thing. Like, we got to get it down. We can't have... there's not a day when 1,200 people go into that dealership.
Yeah, first of all, how many dealerships, Tesla dealerships are there? I mean, like, in the style of Hurt by Nine Inch Nails.
And you're selling every single one of them a car. That is pretty impressive. Continue.
Tesla location alone reported selling more than 1,200 vehicles on January 11th, totaling more than $4 million in rebates. So we paid them a visit to try and get some clarity on the staggering number of sales.
Yeah, it's a great question. Like, hey, where can we get this salesman sauce?
Good, how are you? Good. My name's Adrian Goldberg. I'm a journalist with CTV News.
Oh, pause it. The salesman's going to brag about this, right? Because this is like, I hope this Tesla is just a way station. I mean, after it comes out the way this guy sells.
That lot wouldn't hold 1,500 cars. Yeah, and somehow, by magic, or by fraud, 1,100 or 1,200 of them were sold. Nose Nine Inch Nails is the best one-man band ever. You know what? I think that like Trent Reznor is incredibly talented, and for being a one-man band, for doing everything himself, man, he's got talent. He's got talent.
Somebody's going to scoop him up. I mean, this is talent. All right, so back up a little bit. I want to hear this. It's going to be great. The guy's going to be like, watch him sell himself, too, I bet.
January 11th, totaling more than $4 million in rebates. So we paid them a visit to try and get some clarity on the staggering number of sales.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, good. My name's Adrian Gobriel. I'm a journalist with CTV News.
Oh, yeah, it's actually a good point, Catpig. That's how it worked for my dad's company car, and I'm sure, and I assume that's pretty common. Yeah, that's a good point.
There was a large increase in the number of sales processed through the EV rebate program. Just trying to get an understanding of perhaps what maybe some of the reasons were behind that. Did that take place, or is that a backlog of paperwork going through? You can't share any comments. Is there any manager you think that might be able to? I am the manager.
Our multiple emails to Tesla's headquarters have been met with silence.
Weird.
It defies logic.
Listen to this guy. This is good.
That these corporate stores of Tesla and Tesla shareholders and Elon Musk would be able to sell 8,600 vehicles in a single weekend. There's something highly unusual about this.
So to recap,
I mean, like, man, you didn't even bother. You didn't even bother to try to like commit fraud in a more in a more hidden way. Also, there could be online orders. It's really hard to comment without historical data on those dealership sales, but the numbers do seem implausible, and since we're not in criminal court here, innocent until you're proven guilty does not apply. And when you're co-emperor, you do not get the benefit of doubt. Yeah, I mean, like, just by logic, like, I'm not even talking about whether or not, like, this actually happened. It just seems so very, very, very fishy that a dealership could sell that many. Like, is that like, how much cars do dealerships actually sell in, like, say, a weekend? I would bet real American dollars, okay, that an average dealership is not selling 1,000 cars, okay? If they sell, say, if they sell like 100 cars in a weekend, it would be very hard to believe. Does that make sense? Now, of course, if this was some like massive order, they would just say so. They would say, well, we were contracted by such and such company and we gave them an order of 1,000 Teslas, and like that's the end of the story. But no, that didn't happen. So yeah, I'm gonna call BS on this. I'm thinking he's fudging the numbers. Worth noting that Trent Reznor grew up with material support for his interests. This is for all the Trent Reznors that never got their chance. They're not supposed to do these rebates until the car is delivered to the customer. That's even what? So they're just getting like money for nothing, right? Because they're not. How you would have to prove that every one of these deliveries were to a real person. I think Cedar said something about 2K cars per year. That actually makes sense. That makes sense. Please boop the like button. Yes, keep doing it, folks. Boast about how awesomely environmental they are. Ingratiate themselves with Trump. Yep. This wouldn't. This wouldn't be 1,200 sales. This would be 1,200 customer deliveries. Yeah. I mean, oof. Yeah. Press X to doubt chat.
Canada has been running an EV rebate program, which has been quite popular and quite successful. The way the program works is that when a customer purchases an EV, the cost of the rebate is originally fronted by the dealership. Then the dealer receives reimbursement from the government. Now, in early January, the government announced the fund was running low on money and might be suspended sometime in the next few weeks. And that is when 4 Tesla dealerships pulled off the biggest miracle since fish and loaves, somehow selling 8,600 cars in just 3 days.
Nah, not a chance, man. Not a chance. It really doesn't seem plausible at all to me, not knowing anything about how the car market works. Yeah, I mean, like, it just doesn't seem like... I mean, seriously, if you've ever bought a car and had to experience what it is to, like, go into the dealership, I mean, I can guarantee you, okay, that dealership is not doing 1,000 something in a single weekend. Okay? It seems like absurd. It would be better to have data going back a bit further, but come on, that's approaching inconceivable. Yeah, I mean, like, it's just...
See how few they've been selling before then.
Yes.
It just, yeah, I
there's
don't
a
buy it.
suggestion that maybe there was a backlog of documents. But again, 8,600 cars sold by 4 different outlets. And just presumably that backlog is just for the year. I mean, really, there's 2 jobs when you have a car dealership. One is sell cars. The other is to keep paperwork. That's basically it. They didn't file their rebate. Oh, we don't need those rebates. Hey, guys, listen, gather round. We all know there's a limited amount of funds out there. So don't you take your time when you're writing out for your rebates. Maybe wait 6-7 months.
Yeah, we don't need that money.
We don't need that. Hey, don't worry. Your bonuses are not tied to this. We're going to front you the money and hope that we get it. So don't worry. Don't fill out your paperwork quick. Now, here's the other part, too. There were actual car dealerships that actually sold EVs. And because of this huge spike, the 8,600 cars sold in a day, the EV rebate fund ran out. And so people who had, the dealerships that had already...
YouTube liked and added to watch later for sleepy time views. Thank you. Appreciate it. To be fair, someone might have not filled the years for the year's worth of rebates, but I doubt it. Your business usually wants that money ASAP, but maybe the managers and supervised. Yeah, but also, like, 8,600 sales that year?
Fronted, anticipating like, oh, there's this amount left. It's not like somebody's going to pretend like they sold 8,600 in a weekend, so the money will be there. It screwed a bunch of car dealers out of this money. And they're investigating it. I wonder what's going to happen there.
Well, at least Tesla Quebec City, Tesla 80, I don't know what that is, Tesla Vancouver, and Tesla Lawrence Avenue are taken care of.
And the good news is those guys are going to have a great career in sales.
Coffee is for closers. Closing 1,200 deals.
Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our...
Hey, I have that one. Look at this. See, I can do it too. And I'm sure that in Canada, like every government agencies are often less than perfect, so you do want to get that paperwork in quickly. Yeah, it just doesn't seem like very logical, right? It just doesn't seem very logical that they would just hoard all of those potential rebates. It just the whole thing is like it just doesn't compute. Maybe he's really bad at his job and missed the last 5 years. What kind of setup for car dealers has enough free liquidity to just sit on entitlements of 40 million? Exactly. One that's committing fraud. That's the kind of dealership. One that's perhaps artificially inflating the amount of sales to an unbelievable amount of unbelievable amount. All right, folks, we got to get through some of these headlines. I've got, I think we're only going to get through 3 maybe, because we got to get out of here. It's already past 7. Trump asked the Supreme Court to intervene in case challenging the birthright citizenship order. Incidentally, this is about challenging the Constitution. That's what this is about. President Trump on Thursday today asked the Supreme Court to limit for now the scope of 3 lower court orders that broadly blocked enforcement of his executive order seeking to end birthright citizenship, the 14th Amendment. The Trump administration asked the High Court for emergency relief in 3 separate requests, which arise out of the cases brought in by Maryland, Massachusetts, and Washington State. In all 3 disputes, U.S. District Court judges issued orders blocking nationwide enforcement of Trump's executive order, which was issued his first day of office. Acting Solicitor General Sarah Harris is now asking the higher court to limit the sweep of those orders to cover only individuals who are directly involved in the case. These cases, which involve challenges to the President's January 20th, 2025 executive order concerning birthright citizenship, raise important constitutional questions with major ramifications for securing the border. Yeah, whatever. But at this stage, the government comes to this court with a modest request. While the parties litigate weighty merits questions, the court should restrict the scope of multiple preliminary injunctions that purport to cover every person in the country, limiting those injunctions to parties actually within the court's power. I hope the SCOTUS doesn't pause those injunctions. It's hard to tell, man. Sometimes, like, SCOTUS will do the right thing. We'll get surprise rulings, but I don't have a whole lot of confidence. I don't have a whole lot of confidence in this court. I mean, their majority is a pile of corrupt politicians, not judges, but maybe there's a limit to their corruption. I mean, it's really a hit or miss, because like sometimes you'll get like these surprise rulings, but I mean, no doubt about it that you're right. It's full of, especially Thomas and Alito. It's just corruption. Ordinarily, I would say, yeah, SCOTUS is going to refuse that BS out of hand, but this is 2025. I mean, like, literally, logically, or constitutionally, right, this would be absurd. Like, this constitutionally would be laughed out of court. Like, in fact, it was, right? Mr. Trump insisted his executive order seeking to terminate birthright citizenship on his first day of office, part of a broad, long-promised crackdown on illegal immigration across the U.S.-Mexico border. The order denies U.S. Citizenship to children born to mothers who are in the country unlawfully or temporarily on visas and whose fathers are neither citizens nor lawful permanent residents. The president's executive action sparked immediate legal challenges, including in the case that have now arrived at the Supreme Court. The challengers all argue that Mr. Trump's order violates the citizenship clause of the 14th Amendment. 4 U.S. district judges in Maryland, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and Washington issued orders blocking enforcement of the president's attempt to end birthright citizenship. Efforts by the Trump administration to have U.S. Appeals Court restrict the scope of these 3 decisions to apply to only the parties, which include 22 states, members of 2 organizations, and 7 individuals, while legal proceedings move forward, have not been successful. Right? Because it's just so absurd. It's absurd. It's already done in the Constitution. Like, there's nothing to argue here. Unless you think the Constitution should be, unless you think the 14th Amendment part of the Constitution should be thrown out, which he believes. In its request to the Supreme Court, the Trump administration has said it should clear the way for the president's birthright citizenship order to partially take effect. Harris, who represents the federal government before the court, largely criticizes the scope of the relief, which extends nationwide, and warned that these injunctions harm the executive branch's ability to carry out its functions. It doesn't? District courts have issued more universal injunctions and temporary restraining orders during February 2025 alone than through the first 3 years of the Biden administration, she wrote. That sharp rise in Trump's universal injunction stopped the executive branch from performing its constitutional functions, before any court fully examines the merits of those actions and threatened to swamp this court's emergency docket. Well, because the reason why is because he keeps doing constitutionally dubious crap. That's why there's so many freaking TROs and injunctions. Well, maybe the emperor should do less lawless thuggery then. True. She noted that the decisions arising out of challenges to Mr. Trump's birthright citizenship to cover all 50 states and millions of aliens across the country. Quote, this court should declare that enough is enough before district courts' burgeoning reliance on universal injunctions become further entrenched, the acting solicitor general wrote. On the issue of immigration specifically, Harris said the lower court orders impede the president's efforts to address what he said is a crisis at the southern border. Well, too bad. Okay? Too bad. The district court's universal injunctions threaten to perpetuate those problems by holding our nationwide incentive for illegal immigration, prospect of American citizenship for unlawful migrants, children, and of derivative immigration benefits for the migrants themselves. I mean, this is just disgusting, man. So, like, basically, like, this is saying that we should dispense with the 14th Amendment because some children may become U.S. citizens, and that's bad. Specifically, some brown children may become U.S. citizens, and that's bad. Republicans and Democrats alike have sought these nationwide orders when challenging the policies of a president from opposing political party, and decisions granting that broad relief have been criticized by administrations on both sides of the political spectrum. Even several members of the Supreme Court have expressed concern about the soundness of these broad orders, which bar the government from enforcing the policy at issue against anyone, anywhere in the country. In a 2018 concurring opinion in a case involving Mr. Trump's travel ban issued during his first term, Clarence Thomas noted that the district courts in Hawaii and Maryland entered preliminary injunctions that barred Trump from the Trump administration from enforcing the policy, and he said he was skeptical they have the authority to do so. If their popularity continues, this court must address the legality. Not sure why I said that twice, but I meant it. Well, I just see it once. Bingo. Mouselander, welcome. You guys got eyeballs? I see them. I see them. That's the correct response to this. That is the correct response to this. So basically, like, if you really think about it, this is just like a long, drawn out, this is just a long, drawn out way of trying to legally say that, like, it's a legal argument for the Great Replacement. That's essentially what they're trying to do. That's essentially what the Trump administration's trying to argue, right? Because, like, based on her own statement, she's saying that it's problematic that certain kids may become citizens, right? And, like, why would you make that argument unless you thought that that had some kind of significance, which then the question becomes, what significance does that have for these people? And the significance is that they underneath all of that, they believe that brown people are going to replace the white order, and this is the vehicle that they're using, right? The 14th Amendment, birthright citizenship. That's it. I thought Trump's first term was exhausting. No, this is worse. Let me tell you, this is worse. Trump to invoke the Wartime Alien Enemies Act of 1798 to carry out deportations to Guantanamo. Fantastic. President Trump is planning to invoke a wartime law known as Alien Enemies Act of 1798 as soon as Friday, tomorrow, to authorize the summary deportation of some migrants, including to Guantanamo Bay, by escalating his government's wide immigration crackdown. Multiple U.S. officials with the plan told CBS News. The 227-year-old law gives presidents the extraordinary power to order the arrest, detention, and deportation of non-citizens who are 14 years or older and come from countries staging an invasion or predatory incursion of the U.S. And, of course, the pretense is that, of course, the brown people coming here to try to make a life out of for themselves, to try to escape the horrors that, that are driving them from their home. He thinks that is an invasion, right? That's the incursion. Spanish-American War, Anti-China Act. 1790, it's Spanish. Mr. Trump is expected to cite the 18th century statute to order the swift detention and deportation of suspected members of Tren de Aragua, a Venezuelan gang with prison origins that his administration has designated a foreign terrorist organization, said sources who requested anonymity to discuss internal deliberations. Officials have made preparations to send suspected gang members to the U.S. naval base at Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, soon as after Mr. Trump invokes the Alien Enemies Act, two of the officials said. At Trump's direction, officials have been detaining some migrants awaiting deportation at the naval base. The holding facilities were left empty earlier this week. Those subject to the Alien Enemies Act would not be allowed to have a court hearing or an asylum interview, since they would be processed under an emergency wartime authority, not immigration law. Red flag. This is a massive red flag. So you see what's happening here, right? They're trying to bypass due process. They're trying to bypass due process under this emergency power. And when that happens, as Mouselander just pointed out, that means anyone who doesn't look of a certain profile would, you would be, subject to be stopped. And perhaps if you look like a gang member, and I don't know what that means, if I guess it's at their discretion, you may find yourself in Guantanamo Bay. S.V. Harkin, it's not good to elect a Sadie sociopath as the president of the United States. I think Trump is the first one. Your hair isn't blonde enough and your eyes aren't blue enough. Yep. Instead, they would be eligible to be detained and deported with little to no due process under Title 50, the section of the U.S. Code housing America's war and defense laws. So maybe if you are of a certain complexion and you are a political dissident, This may be an easy way to remove said political dissidents. Yeah. CNN first reported Mr. Trump's plan to invoke this law as early as Friday. The Alien and Enemies Act has been invoked only a few times in the U.S., including World War II, when the government used to surveil and detain Italian, German, and Japanese immigrants in the U.S. Its invocation to target migrants from countries with which the U.S. is not actively at war is almost certain to face legal challenges. Mr. Trump previewed his invocation of Aliens Enemies Act in an executive order issued during his first day at the White House. It directed the Secretaries of State and Homeland Security to plan for the potential invocation of the law and prepare facilities necessary to expedite the removal of those subject to it. Quote, by invoking the Aliens Enemy Acts of 1798, I will direct our government to use the full and immense power of the federal and state law enforcement to eliminate the presence of all foreign gangs and criminal networks bringing devastating crime to U.S. soil, including our cities and inner cities. CBS News reached out to representatives of the White House and Department of Homeland Security for comment. So, yeah, cool. That's it right there. If this goes, then this is the ticket, right? You don't have to go through this whole due process. You can just start getting rid of people who don't fit certain descriptions. Because, who would want to be bothered going through due process and rights, right? A federal judge on Thursday today ordered federal agencies to rehire tens of thousands of probationary employees who were fired amid President Trump's turbulent efforts to drastically shrink the federal bureaucracy. Nice. Nice. So congrats. Hopefully they continue to win this legal fight. Why is he using the act when he's ignoring everything else Congress has passed? Because it gives a veil of kind of legitimacy. So we'll see. We'll see how that plays out. U.S. District Judge William Alsup described the mass firings as a sham strategy by the government's Central Human Resource Office to sidestep legal requirements for reducing the federal workforce. Alsup, a San Francisco-based appointee of President Clinton, ordered the Defense, Treasury, Energy, Interior, Agriculture, and Veterans Affairs departments to immediately offer all fired probationary employees their jobs back. The Office of Personnel Management, or OPM, the judge said had made an unlawful decision to terminate. Even if upheld on appeal, it does not guarantee that all workers will be able to get their job backs permanently. Alsup made clear the agencies still have the authority to implement reductions in force as long as they follow the proper procedures. So we'll see what happens with this. Get the nuke scientists and the FAA workers back. Seriously. That would be ideal. Sham scam. Now, fetus has more rights. All right, folks, I got to get out of here. It is close to 7:30, and I got to start getting ready for my trip since I only have tomorrow left. Folks, once again, I am reminding folks that next week the streams will be a bit limited. So bear with me. Next week, the streams will be a little bit limited. I'm going to try to do Monday and we'll see, Monday, maybe Tuesday. I'm not sure. We'll see how things play out. But we'll see how that goes. Stay tuned, folks. Be on the Discord if you want to keep up with the channel, because I will be making an announcement there just to kind of remind people again. So join the Discord, folks. Thank you. Thank you guys. See you next time. This was great. Appreciate it. The surf time is live. Yeah, go head on over to the surfs. Lance is good people. Lance is good people. Have a good one. Thank you. Eclipse tonight. Ooh. Thank you for the stream. No problem. So yeah, be aware, folks. Next week the streams are going to be a little bit limited. I mean, there's notifications, but if you want to keep up with the channel and you don't want to miss a thing, join the Discord. Subscribe to the Substack, folks. If you want to support the channel, keep doing what you're doing. If you're on the YouTube, keep liking the stream and keep subscribing. We have quite an amount of folks have been hitting that subscribe button, so keep that up. Thank you guys. Appreciate it. If you want to support the channel directly, consider checking the merch store and the ! tip. I appreciate you guys. Thank you, Heat. Thank you, Michael Hesser, for modding the chat. I appreciate you guys. We'll be back on Monday. After that, I'm not sure how the streams are going to pan out, but no problem. We'll figure it out if we have to make the streams later or if we have to do the streams earlier. I don't know. In any case, we'll figure it out. I'm just me. Good night, and thank you for the stream. Appreciate it. Buy a swastika today. So absurd. Thank you all for being here. Appreciate it. We'll be back on Monday. Spread the word. We're here Monday through Thursday about 5 p.m. Eastern time. As always, folks, please stay safe. Please take care of each other. I love you all, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. See ya. Yeah, the cat's been mowing about. All right, folks, we're heading out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bye-bye.